The Threx Dominion had crossed half the galaxy to reach this blue planet. Their fleet filled the void above Earth, sharp silver warships blotting out the stars. Inside the flagship, Commander Valen stood tall, armored in black plates that glowed faint red with power. His voice echoed through the command deck. Target the largest human cities. Drop forces on New York, London, and Beijing. Show them what it means to stand before the Dominion. His officers obeyed at once. They had done this on dozens of worlds. The pattern was always the same: swift landing, quick surrender, broken resistance. Civilizations bent to their will, begging for mercy. Why should Earth be any different? Through the viewing screen, the planet looked weak. Clouds drifted over green forests and deep oceans. The cities glittered like tiny jewels, fragile and harmless. Valen laughed, showing sharp teeth. A soft world, he muttered. These humans will kneel before the sun sets. But the first sign of danger came too quickly. As the Threx carriers dropped through the atmosphere, Earth skies roared. Fighter jets scrambled from hidden bases, slicing through the clouds with thunder and fire. Missiles streaked upward, their smoke trails twisting like angry serpents. Explosions lit the heavens as alien landing craft shook under the sudden assault. "Impossible," one officer shouted. "How do they detect us so fast?" Commander Valen scowled. "Primitive machines. Nothing more. Ignore them. Land the troops. Crush resistance." The landing ships forced their way down, wings glowing with heat as they cut through the air. They slammed into city streets with mechanical precision, scattering rubble. Troop bays opened, and the first waves of Threx soldiers poured out, weapons gleaming, armor bright under the human sun. They expected Faye. They expected screaming civilians, running and hiding. But the streets of New York did not collapse into chaos. From behind shattered cars and broken buildings, humans rose with rifles and rocket launchers. Police, soldiers, and even ordinary people opened fire. Explosions ripped through the first squads of Threx. The air burned with gunfire, smoke, and shouts. "Resistance is organized," one alien captain cried through the comms. Valen's jaw tightened. "Hold formation. Humans are nothing but scattered tribes. They cannot stop us." But the reports kept coming. In London, swarms of drones appeared from rooftops, diving onto alien patrols like steel birds. In Beijing, armored vehicles rolled from hidden tunnels, firing shells that cracked Threx shields apart. Everywhere, humans fought back, not in panic, but in unity. Valen slammed a fist against the command table. How are they doing this? They look primitive, but their coordination is precise. The truth was dawning, but he refused to accept it. He saw the footage, squads of Threx soldiers cut down in alleyways, ambushed from above, trapped in burning streets. The humans did not flee. They fought as if they had been preparing for this day. Above the cities, dogfights raged in the sky. Human jets, smaller and slower than Threx craft, still flew with fearless skill. They darted between skyscrapers, vanishing into clouds, reappearing to strike with deadly accuracy. Entire wings of alien aircraft fell in flames. On the ground, the fighting was worse. In New York, an alien squad advanced through Times Square, shields raised. But every window above them spat gunfire. Every corner held another trap. A bus suddenly exploded, rigged with hidden explosives, hurling the aliens into the air. Before they could recover, more humans stormed forward, shouting battle cries that shook even hardened Threx warriors. "These people, they are everywhere," whispered one alien trooper, his voice trembling. Commander Valen dismissed the Fae. "They are desperate. Desperation makes them reckless. Push forward. Break them." But inside, doubt clawed at him. He remembered other conquests, their easy victories, the way enemies surrendered in days. Yet only hours into the assault, his forces bled across 3 continents. In London, alien patrols were cut off by underground fighters. Subways became war zones, tunnels echoing with gunfire. The Threx could barely see in the darkness before another ambush struck. In Beijing, entire convoys vanished under bridges rigged to collapse, leaving only burning wreckage. And in New York, perhaps the fiercest resistance of all, humans fought with the fury of a cornered beast. Firefighters carried rifles, construction workers turned cranes into weapons, and civilians used drones, homemade bombs, and raw courage to strike again and again. For every street the Threx took, they lost twice as many soldiers as they expected. Valen's eyes narrowed as more red symbols appeared on the tactical map. Losses, failures, resistant strongholds. His crew looked at him with unease. None dared speak, but fear was thick in the air. Finally, one officer broke the silence. "Commander, this world is not what we thought. Their defenses are too." Valen's voice cut like a blade. "Silence. We are Threx. We do not retreat. Advance until they break. If they resist, we burn their cities to ash." The order echoed across the fleet. More landing ships prepared to descend, even as human missiles tore through the skies. But something inside Valen knew. He saw it in the faces of his soldiers as they fought, in the eyes of the humans who refused to surrender. Earth was not soft. It was not weak. And yet, pride drowned out reason. Commander Valen looked down at the glowing blue planet and growled one last command. "Push forward. Whatever it takes. This world will kneel." But far below, in every city and every street, humanity was already proving him wrong. The first true battle for Earth began in the cities. In New York, alien drop ships tore open the sky, streaking flames as they landed across Manhattan. Their armored soldiers marched out with perfect precision, weapons humming with deadly light. To them, the city was already theirs. Towers of glass and steel stood tall but fragile, nothing compared to the fortified worlds they had conquered before. The Threx expected panic, begging, surrender. Instead, the city roared back. The first rocket struck before the aliens even cleared their landing zone. It came from a rooftop near Times Square, fired by a squad of humans in patched uniforms. The explosion tore through the lead formation, hurling alien bodies into the air. Before the smoke cleared, gunfire poured from every direction. Streets, windows, rooftops. The aliens staggered. Shields flayed, armor cracked, and for the first time in years of conquest, the Threx felt what it was like to be ambushed. "Counterfire! Advance!" shouted the alien captain. His troops raised energy rifles, sending green bolts into buildings. Glass shattered, walls collapsed, but the humans did not stop. They moved like water, vanishing from one position only to appear in another, striking again and again. Commander Valen watched the battle from orbit, his jaw clenched. The humans were not breaking. They were not running. They were fighting with a discipline he had not expected. "Send more squads into New York," he ordered coldly. "Overwhelm them with numbers." But the same story unfolded in London. Alien soldiers marched down streets that once carried tourists and shoppers. Their boots pounded the ground as drones scanned ahead. The aliens thought the city empty, its people hiding underground. Then the bells of Big Ben rang, not with time, but with war. From hidden bunkers, human soldiers surged out. Machine guns rattled, rocket launchers flared. Civilian drones, once used for deliveries, now carried explosives. They swooped from the foggy sky, crashing into alien squads in bursts of fire. The aliens fired back, cutting down humans in brutal sweeps. But for every human that fell, two more rose. Underground tunnels spat out fighters who vanished just as quickly, striking from shadows the Threx could not map. And in Beijing, the Threx faced perhaps the harshest welcome of all. The landing ships set down on wide avenues, their steel claws cracking the pavement. Soldiers poured out, shields glowing. They expected empty streets. Instead, armored vehicles rumbled from underground garages, cannons thundering. Entire lines of alien infantry vanished in blasts of fire. From balconies above, rockets rained down like burning hail. One alien lieutenant screamed into his comms, "It's a trap. Every street is a battlefield." The truth was dawning on the Threx. Earth's cities were not simply urban landscapes. They were fortresses. Every tower could hide a sniper. Every subway could carry fighters. Every street corner could explode. Commander Valen's voice shook with controlled rage as he listened to the flood of reports. Resistance in all 3 cities. Casualties heavier than expected. Losses in New York rising. London forces cut off from air support. Beijing patrols surrounded. Valen slammed his claws into the table. Primitive does not mean weak, but we will not yield. Push forward. On the ground, his soldiers tried. In New York, they pushed block by block, using heavy walkers to clear streets. But humans fought with traps. Fuel trucks detonated in narrow avenues. Bridges collapsed under the weight of alien machines. Skyscrapers toppled with carefully placed charges. Every victory came at a brutal cost. One alien squad finally secured a plaza, only to find themselves surrounded by civilians armed with nothing but Molotov cocktails and determination. Flames swallowed their armor as the humans shouted in fury. In London, the fog grew thick, cloaking the city. Alien scanners struggled to track heat signatures through the damp air. Suddenly, from the mist, human jets screamed overhead, firing missiles into alien armor columns. The threats fired blindly into the fog, hitting nothing but empty streets. Then, from the sewers below, human fighters erupted, dragging aliens down into darkness. Beijing's defenders fought like tigers. Every rooftop bristled with gunfire, every park was mined. Threats reinforcement tried to land, but hidden artillery unleashed a storm of shells that ripped through their craft. The great avenues became rivers of smoke and blood. The aliens had never faced this before. They were conquerors used to swift victories, but hey, every street, every corner, every wall was an enemy. Back on the flagship, silence hung heavy. Valen's officers looked uneasy. One of them finally whispered, "Commander, it feels as if they were prepared for us." Valen growled, "No one prepares for the Dominion. They are improvising, nothing more. Push harder, break them before they regroup." But in his heart, doubt was growing. The humans did not fight like a primitive people. They fought like veterans of endless wars. They fought as though they had rehearsed for this very moment. And worst of all, they fought without fear. Across New York, London, and Beijing, the message was clear. This was not a species that would bow easily. This was a species that would make invaders bleed for every step. For the first time, the threats began to understand what kind of enemy they had chosen. And far below, among the smoke and the fire, humanity was only getting started. The battle reports flooded the Threx command deck, one after another. Losses in New York. Ambushes in London. Entire patrols gone silent in Beijing. Commander Valen stood rigid, his red eyes burning as the data scrolled across the screen. It was impossible. No world had resisted the Dominion like this. The humans were supposed to be primitive, fractured, weak, unready for war. Yet everywhere the threat struck, resistance rose faster than they could crush it. At last, one of his science officers, a thin, gray-skinned figure, broke the silence. "Commander, perhaps we should review the archives. This species has a long history. There may be explanations." Valen's head snapped toward him. "Explanations. They are nothing but savages with outdated weapons." But the officer did not back down. His claws trembled as he pressed a control, bringing human history onto the holoscreen. "Savages, yes. But Commander, look at this." The room darkened, and images filled the air. Wars. Endless wars. The humans had fought across centuries, across continents, across oceans. Kingdoms rose and fell in rivers of blood. Empires expanded and shattered. Civil wars tore nations apart. Global wars burned half the planet not once, but twice. The Threx officers stayed in silence as the timeline unfolded. Tanks rolling across Europe. Battleships sinking in flames. Jet fighters screaming through the skies. Cities reduced to rubble by firebombs. And then, the mushroom clouds. Valen's eyes narrowed. They used nuclear fire on themselves. "Yes, Commander," the officer whispered. "Against each other. And they survived." Gasps rippled through the crew. No species should have endured such destruction. No world should have recovered from such self-inflicted wounds. Yet he stood, alive, defiant. The images shifted. More recent wars filled the screen, urban battles, desert ambushes, endless conflicts fought with a cold, ruthless efficiency. Small nations facing giants. Guerrilla fighters resisting armies for decades. Another officer muttered, voice low with unease, they have fought in every terrain, cities, jungles, deserts, mountains. There is no place on their planet they have not turned into a battlefield. Valen growled, so they are violent. That does not make them dangerous to us. But the science officer was not finished. Commander, look deeper. They do not only fight, they adapt. Every weapon invented, they used against themselves first. Every strategy tested, refined in blood. And now, all of that is aimed at us. The holoscreen shifted again. Footage from the current invasion played. Humans using drones, improvised bombs, ambushes that mirrored tactics from wars fought centuries ago. It was as though the entire history of warfare was alive in them, passed down from generation to generation. The room grew cold. One Threx soldier, young and untested, whispered what many were now thinking. This is not a species of peace. This is a species forged in war. The words hung heavy, undeniable. On the ground, the soldiers already felt it. In New York, a squad of Threx tried to secure Central Park. The wide-open field should have been an easy landing zone. Instead, they found themselves under sniper fire from half a dozen hidden nests. Bullets cracked through the air, forcing them into cover. Then came mortars, shells falling with terrifying accuracy. It was a textbook encirclement, something a primitive people should not have been able to execute. In London, patrols tried to clear underground tunnels, only to discover elaborate traps straight out of guerrilla handbooks. Tripwires, mines, false passages. Every corner was a memory of wars fought long ago. And in Beijing, alien squads found themselves lured into narrow streets, surrounded, cut off from retreat. Civilians and soldiers fought side by side, just as partisans had done against invaders in centuries past. It was not random resistance. It was not chaos. It was history reborn. Valen clenched his fists. He hated what he saw, hated the fear that crept into his soldiers' eyes. Enough. They are still flesh and blood. Crush them, and their history dies with them. But deep down, he knew history did not die so easily. The science officer's voice trembled as he gave the final report. Commander, if this continues, it will not be we who teach them fear. It will be they who teach us. Silence. No one dared speak. On the holoscreen, human broadcast broke through the jamming fields. Valen leaned forward as one message repeated across every channel, every frequency, every language. This is our world. We have survived everything. Plague, fire, war, and even ourselves. You will not break us. You will join the list of those who tried and failed. The crew shuddered. The message was not just defiance. It was a warning. The Threx had misjudged this species. They had walked into the lair of predators who had been sharpening their claws for thousands of years. Commander Valen forced his voice steady. Prepare the next wave. We will show them what true conquest means. But his soldiers no longer moved with confidence. The legend of humanity was already spreading through the fleet. A whisper passed from mouth to mouth. This is not just another world. This is a graveyard waiting for us. And far below, among burning cities, humanity fought on. Each battle another page in a history written with fire. The Dominion had come to conquer. Instead, they had awoken the most dangerous memory of all, the memory of human war. The cities burned, but they did not fall. The Threx expected victory within hours, yet days dragged on, and still the humans fought. Commander Valen shifted his strategy. If their cities are traps, he snarled, then we will take the wild places. Cut them off from their resources. Seize their mountains, their forests, their oceans. Starve them into submission. The order went out. New waves of landing craft streaked toward the planet, scattering across rural lands. To the Threx, wilderness was simple terrain, open, undefended, silent. But Earth had never been silent. The mountains were waiting. The mountains. In the Himalayas, alien drop ships landed on snowy slopes. Troops marched out, their black armor gleaming under the cold sun. The thin air bit at their lungs, but they pressed forward, scanners sweeping for human camps. For a time, the peaks seemed empty, too quiet. Then came the first shot. A single crack echoed across the valley, and one Threx soldier dropped into the snow, armor pierced clean through. Another fell moments later. The squad scrambled for cover, but there was none. Every ridge, every rock, every cliff hid an unseen sniper. The Threx raised shields and fired blindly, green bolts searing across the mountainsides. But the humans did not stay still. They vanished into the white, reappearing with deadly precision. Avalanches followed. Entire alien units were buried under walls of snow triggered by hidden charges. Others fell into carefully laid minefields, explosions ripping apart their formation. The mountains themselves were weapons, and it was not only soldiers who fought. Shepherds guided aliens into ambushes. Climbers scaled cliffs to rain fire from above. Every villager seemed to know the land better than any map could show. One alien captain, trapped with half his unit lost, finally transmitted a desperate message. The mountains are alive with fire. Every path bleeds us. Every shadow hides an enemy. This is not terrain. This is war itself. The forests. Far to the west, in dense European woodlands, Threx squads advanced with heavy scanners. Their machines hummed, mapping the trees, tracing every movement. Yet the forest deceived them. Drones failed, sensors flickered. Then the arrows came. Not crude wooden shafts, but carbon-tipped missiles loose from portable launchers. They struck from all directions, shattering shields, forcing the aliens into panic. From the undergrowth, humans appeared like ghosts, ghillie suits blending with moss, rifles whispering death from unseen places. Every step forward was punished. Every clearing was a trap. The forest closed in. Trunks toppled from timed explosives, crushing alien walkers. Fires erupted, choking the air with smoke. The Threx tried to regroup, but the humans vanished again, leaving nothing but silence before the next strike. A veteran alien soldier spat in frustration. They fight like predators. They hunt us in our own patrols. We are not the conquerors here. We are the prey. The oceans. Commander Valen shifted his focus once more. If the land bled them, then perhaps the sea would grant victory. He ordered fleets of landing craft into the oceans, seeking to control Earth shipping lanes and cut off global supply. At first, the waters seemed calm. Blue waves stretched for miles, empty and harmless. The Threx ships cruised with confidence. Then the ocean stirred. From the depths, human submarines rose like ancient beasts. Torpedoes screamed through the water, striking alien hulls with thunder. Entire landing craft split apart, sinking into the dark. The Threx scrambled to respond, dropping depth charges, firing plasma into the sea. But the submarines were already gone, vanishing into trenches, only to reappear miles away for another strike. And above the waves, human navies emerged. Destroyers, carriers, missile frigates, ships that the aliens had thought outdated. Yet they fought with precision, unleashing storms of rockets that rained down on the alien fleets. One alien admiral watched in disbelief as his flagship rocked under impact. How can they control the seas so well? This is not technology, it is instinct. For humanity, the oceans had always been battlegrounds. For centuries, empires had risen and fallen on the waves. That memory still lived, now turned against the Threx. The deserts, even the deserts fought back. In the burning sands of North Africa, alien convoys rolled out, only to find themselves swallowed by dust storms. Within the blinding haze, human vehicles struck fast and vanished, a style of war tested across centuries of desert campaigns. Explosives buried under dunes tore apart walkers. Snipers used the shimmer of heat to mask their shots. When the sand cleared, alien machines lay burning, and the humans were already gone. Realization. From orbit, Valen watched the growing disaster. His soldiers were scattered across every kind of terrain, and in every place, humans fought with a mastery that defied reason. His officers whispered among themselves, "No matter where we land, they are waiting." Mountains, forests, deserts, sees, it is as though the planet itself fights us. But they all knew the truth. It was not the planet, it was the people. Humanity had turned every environment into a weapon long before the threats had arrived. They were not learning to fight. They already knew. Valen's claws scraped the command table. His pride kept him from admitting the truth aloud, but the thought gnawed at him like a wound. This world was forged for war, and we are the intruders. The Thrax Dominion had expected chaos. They had expected humans to fight each other, to splinter into tribes and factions, to beg for mercy. That was how conquest always worked. Divide the weak, and they fall. But Earth did not divide. Instead, the invasion did something no human treaty, no summit, no diplomacy had ever managed. It united them. The broadcast. It began with a voice. Across satellites, radios, and broken networks, a human leader's message spread like fire. Presidents, generals, and prime ministers had gathered in an underground command bunker, their faces lit by dim screens. Old enemies sat side by side, once rivals, now allies. A single statement rang out. The Threx came believing we are weak, but we have survived ice ages, plagues, and wars that would have erased lesser species. We have fought each other for thousands of years, but today, we fight together. This is not America's war, not Russia's war, not China's war. This is humanity's war. The words carried into every home, every bunker, every battlefield. Soldiers heard it. Civilians heard it. Even children huddled in the dark heard it. And something changed. Nations rise together. In New York, resistance fighters suddenly found themselves supplied with weapons from across the world. Russian rifles, German anti-tank missiles, Chinese drones. A network had formed, sharing resources without borders. In London, a unit cut off from command received reinforcements flown in from Asia overnight. Food, ammunition, even medical supplies arrived through hidden routes. In Beijing, commanders coordinated strikes with allies halfway across the planet, their strategies woven together into one vast plan. The Threx watched in disbelief. Humans were no longer fighting as separate nations. They were fighting as a single species. One alien officer muttered, This is not possible. They hate each other." Commander Valen's silence was heavier than rage. Deep inside, he understood. The Dominion had given humanity something stronger than hate. They had given them a common enemy, the human network. The first proof came through cyberspace. Alien systems were advanced, shielded, secure, or so they believed. But human hackers, working in dark rooms lit by screens, tore through alien firewalls. Within days, they cracked codes, jammed signals, and hijacked drones. Entire swarms of Threx machines turned on their masters mid-battle. Ships lost contact with their ground forces, their transmissions hijacked by human counter-programs. "This is impossible," an alien tech officer shouted, his fingers flying across consoles. "They should not even understand our code." But humans did not just understand. They adapted faster than the aliens could counter. For every system patched, 10 more were breached. It was not one nation hacking. It was every hacker, every coder, every cyber warrior across Earth working as one. The Dominion had never faced such a thing before. The armies of Earth. On the ground, armies once divided by borders began to fight side by side. American tanks rolled beside Chinese infantry. British special forces fought alongside Russian paratroopers. Old grudges dissolved in the fire of battle. In Africa, militias joined with professional armies, turning deserts into death traps for alien convoys. In South America, jungle fighters linked with satellite support from European allies, cutting down Threx squads in ambush after ambush. Every continent burned, but every continent resisted. And when humans moved, they moved together. Coordinated strikes struck alien fleets across 3 oceans at once. Simultaneous assaults in dozens of cities confused the invaders, forcing them to spread thin. For the first time, the Threx could not predict the enemy. Valen's doubt. From orbit, Commander Valen's fury was turning to fear. He paced the command deck, his claws scraping against steel. How do they coordinate so fast? How do they move with such precision? His officers gave no answer. They had no answer. The truth was too simple, too brutal. Humans had turned the invasion into a global war effort overnight. Every resource, every weapon, every mind was now aimed at the Dominion. And unlike other worlds, humans did not wait for orders. They acted on their own. Civilians formed militias without permission. Farmers turned tractors into armored vehicles. Engineers built bombs in their workshops. Every individual was a soldier in this war. It was not just unity. It was something deeper, something terrifying. They were fighting for home. The Declaration. On the fifth night of the invasion, the world spoke again, this time in one voice. Across every broadcast, every channel, a single message echoed, translated into every language, reaching even the Threks themselves. We are humanity. We fight, not because we are perfect, but because this is our world. You wanted a divided planet. You created a united one. You wanted surrender. You created resistance. You wanted victory. You created your defeat. The Dominion's soldiers listened in silence, dread creeping into their bones. Commander Valen crushed the armrest of his chair, sparks flying. They cannot win. They are only flesh. They are only men. But his words sounded hollow, even to himself. Unity in the fire. On Earth, the unity grew stronger with every battle. A boy in New York shared maps of enemy patrols through a global resistance app, instantly aiding fighters in London. A medic in India discovered how to treat alien plasma burns and uploaded the method worldwide within minutes. A drone strike in Africa was guided by satellite intel from Australia. No commander in the galaxy could have planned such a web of coordination. Yet humanity wove it together with instinct, with desperation, with will. For the first time, the Dominion faced not one nation, not one army, but an entire species fighting as one. And it was a species with thousands of years of practice. The Threks Dominion had believed Earth was already broken. Yet after weeks of war, it was their fleets that bled. Cities had not fallen. Oceans remained hostile. Mountains and forests swallowed alien soldiers whole. And now, humanity was ready to strike back. Orbital fire. Commander Valen gave the order in desperation. If the ground bleeds us, then we burn it from the skies. Prepare orbital bombardment. Reduce their cities to ash. The fleet adjusted position. Giant cannons turned toward Earth. The Threks had done this before. Entire worlds silenced in a single storm of plasma fire. But as the first weapons powered up, something unexpected happened. Their targeting systems went dark. Screens flickered. Coordinates scrambled. Alarms howled across every bridge. Entire firing sequences failed. "What is happening?" an officer shouted. "Systems are blind." Hackers. Human hackers. They had reached into the alien fleet itself. Lines of alien code twisted on screens, overwritten by human scripts that spread like fire. One by one, the bombardment cannons went offline. Some even turned inward, locking onto Threks ships before emergency overrides cut in. For the first time in history, the Dominion's weapons had been stolen from them. The counterstrike. On Earth, the humans did not wait. Hidden missile silos opened in deserts and plains, launching projectiles long thought decommissioned. Nuclear warheads streaked toward orbit, their trails burning like comets. The Threks scrambled shields, but they were too late. Explosions ripped through the edge of the fleet, tearing smaller cruisers apart. Panic rippled across alien channels. Then the skies themselves opened. From mountains, hidden launch pads revealed their secret. Human spacecraft, buried for decades, now roared into the heavens. Sleek black holes streaked upward, engines blazing. They had been hidden in preparation, built quietly in bunkers across the world. Now they rose like a storm. The Dominion, for the first time, was facing humans in space. The first space battle. The clash above Earth was chaos. Human ships, smaller and weaker than alien cruisers, flew like predators, weaving through fire with suicidal daring. Pilots who had mastered the skies now mastered the void. Entire squadrons of fighters swarmed Threks carriers, releasing salvos of missiles at point-blank range. Explosions ripped open alien hulls. On the flagship, Valen's officers screamed for orders. They should not have ships. Where did they come from? Valen's eyes burned as he watched the battlefield. They hid them. They were preparing. All along. His voice trembled, though he refused to admit Faye. Engage all ships. Do not retreat. Do not show weakness. But weakness was already showing. The satellites. As the battle raged, more human tricks appeared. Satellites once used for communication revealed hidden weapon systems. Laser arrays fired into orbit, blinding alien sensors. Kinetic rods, simple steel launched at orbital speeds, slammed into alien cruisers with the force of meteors. The Dominion had shields, yes, but against 100 small strikes at once, even shields buckled. A massive alien battleship shuddered as 3 satellites dropped tungsten rods through its armor, splitting it open. The crew screamed before silence swallowed them. The shift in Faye. On the ground, soldiers looked up at the streaks of fire across the night sky. For the first time, humans saw alien ships falling, burning as they plunged into the atmosphere. Cheers erupted across battlefields. Hope spread like wildfire. And aboard the alien fleet, it was fear that spread. Whispers passed through crews. We are losing. Against primitives. Against savages. Some officers begged Valen to order retreat. He silenced them with threats, but the doubt was there. His soldiers had lost their belief in easy conquest. Humanity's push. The humans pressed harder. Coordinated strikes hit alien strongholds across Earth while their fleets fought in orbit. Hackers seized more systems. Engineers repurposed alien weapons, turning captured technology back against its makers. In New York, human fighters marched through streets once held by Threx, reclaiming ground. In London, drones darkened the skies, hunting alien patrols like predators. In Beijing, captured alien armor now carried human crews, painted with the flags of many nations. The war was no longer defense. It was offense. For the first time, the Dominion was not conquering. They were being hunted. Valen's realization. On the flagship, Commander Valen stared at the chaos. He had believed humanity weak, fractured, primitive. Now he saw the truth. They were predators wearing the mask of prey. They had always been dangerous, but divided. He had united them, him, the invader, and now they would destroy him for it. The flagship shook as another salvo of human missiles struck nearby. Sparks showered across the command deck. "Commander," an officer said, his voice low, "if we do not retreat now, we will lose the fleet." Valen's claws dug into the armrest of his chair. Pride told him to fight. Instinct told him to run. For the first time in his career, he hesitated. The turning point. Across the planet, humanity's leaders watched the skies with new resolve. "This is our chance," one of them said. "They bleed. They fear. Push them. Do not stop until they are gone." And humanity obeyed. Armies surged. Fleets rose. Networks blazed with strategies. Every man, woman, and child became part of the war effort. The tide had turned. The Dominion had entered Earth as conquerors. Now, they fought simply to survive. And in that moment, the galaxy's greatest empire discovered something terrifying. Humans did not fear extinction. They made extinction fear them. The skies above Earth burned. Alien wreckage fell like stars, streaking through the atmosphere. The once invincible Threx Dominion fleet was breaking apart, piece by piece, under the relentless push of a species they had called primitive. Humanity had turned defense into attack, and now there was no going back. The fractured fleet. On the flagship, Commander Valen's claws tapped against the armrest. Every display screamed with red warnings. Cruisers crippled. Carries lost. Battleships in flames. "Hold the line," he barked, but his voice no longer carried the weight it once did. His crew obeyed, but their eyes betrayed them. Fear had spread through the Dominion like poison. A communications officer stammered, "Commander, losses now exceed 60%. If we remain, the fleet will be destroyed." Valen's jaw tightened. He had never retreated in his life. The Dominion did not retreat. To retreat was weakness. To retreat was shame. But the truth was undeniable. Against these humans, staying meant death. Humanity's relentless push. Meanwhile, the humans pressed forward with a savagery that shocked even themselves. In New York, resistance fighters, once ordinary civilians, now marched beside soldiers, their weapons looted from fallen threats. In London, Allied forces stormed alien command posts, planting human flags over captured strongholds. In Beijing, a unified coalition of armies, Chinese, Russian, American, European, pushed through alien lines in perfect coordination. Everywhere, humans advanced. Not slowly, not cautiously, but with a fury born of survival. For the Dominion, this was no longer a war. It was a slaughter. The breaking point. The battle in orbit reached its climax. Human warships, though battered, fought with suicidal determination. Squadrons of fighters swarmed alien cruisers, tearing them apart piece by piece. Captured alien tech, turned against its masters, punched through shields that should have been impenetrable. Valen's flagship groaned under the strain. Hull breaches spread. Fires raged. His officers begged for orders. Finally, the truth could no longer be denied. "Signal the retreat," he said, the words like poison on his tongue. "Withdraw all surviving ships. Leave orbit at once." His crew froze, stunned. The order had never been spoken before. Retreat. From primitives. But the humans left him no choice. The roar of victory. On the ground, humanity watched in or as alien ships broke formation and fled. Cheers erupted across every battlefield. Soldiers embraced. Civilians wept. Children ran into the streets, pointing at the skies as the invaders pulled away. For the first time in living memory, the nations of Earth stood not as rivals, not as enemies, but as one. The message was clear. They had faced the galaxy's greatest empire on their own soil, and won. The last transmission. As the Dominion fleet limped away, humanity sent one final broadcast. It was short, simple, a warning written into history. To the galaxy, hear us well. This is Earth. This is humanity. If you come as friends, we will welcome you. But if you come as conquerors, then remember this. Fighting humans on their homeworld is the last mistake you will ever make. The words echoed across the stars, captured by fleeing Dominion ships, carried into the far reaches of space. A warning. A promise. Valen's defeat. On the bridge of his crippled flagship, Valen sat in silence. The retreat order had been obeyed, but his soul was heavy with shame. He had underestimated them. He had united them. He had created his own defeat. "They are not prey," he whispered to himself, his voice low, broken. "They are predators, the deadliest of all." The crew avoided his eyes. They too knew the truth. The Dominion's age of easy conquest was over. Aftermath on Earth. In the weeks that followed, the world began to rebuild. Cities scarred by battle rose again. Nations that once distrusted each other now worked as allies. Scientists studied captured alien technology, unlocking secrets that would launch humanity decades forward in science and warcraft. But more important than the weapons was the memory, the unity. For the first time in history, Earth was not divided. Humanity had discovered its greatest weapon, itself. The final lesson. Legends spread quickly across the stars. The Threx Dominion, once feared, now carried the shame of defeat. Other empires whispered the story in disbelief. A primitive world had stood against the Dominion and survived. But humans knew the truth. It wasn't survival. It was victory. And the final lesson was clear to all who heard the tale. Never fight humans on their homeworld. Because Earth does not fall. It fights back.